Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Ashley Goldstein, and I am the Learning Solutions Manager heading up the training programs here at Women's Economic Ventures. And we're so excited to have you here today, especially with our amazing advisor and consultant, Cally Ingrebritson, who is going to be talking about steps to start your business with us today. So we're really appreciative of you being here, and I'm just going to do a quick intro of Cally, and then at the end of the session today, I'll be talking a little bit more about Weave resources. We're also joined by one of our other amazing advisors. I see Michelle Carlin there. Thanks for being with us, Michelle. And I'm just curious, just by a show of hands, how many of you are brand new to Weave? How many of you have never kind of heard of Weave before or been part of any of our programs before? You could just do a thumbs up or a no. So Lupita, you're new to Weave? Okay, great. Anybody else brand new to Weave? Okay, well, welcome, Lupita. We're so happy to have you. I have one other person coming in through the waiting room. So Cally is one of our advisors. We have many business advisors here at Weave, and Cally is one who focuses on supporting businesses through many different phases of the business journey, and really focusing a lot on finances. I'm just going to read Cally's bio so you can get to know a little bit before we get started today. As an experienced bilingual business consultant, she loves helping new business owners take the steps to launch their business, including filing all needed paperwork. Outside of her role at Weave, Cally has her own small business as a financial coach and leads workshops and business accelerators. Originally from Minnesota, Cally worked in the finance industry for 11 years and lived in Mexico, Colombia, and Spain before moving to California. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ plus community, and I'll share this before she does, that she's #1 fan of Shakira, because I know that's one of the best things about Cally, and I love that. All right. Very true. So I'll let you go ahead and share your slides if you don't mind, if you're able to share, sure. Cally, and then at the end I'll switch over to the Weave slides.
Okay, sounds good. Let me get this pulled up, and I'll share from here. Makes sense. Show. Okay. Thank you everybody for being here. You guys get extra points for coming to a presentation on a Thursday morning about how to start your business. That is amazing. Since there's a handful of you here, I was going to invite you all to please share a bit in the chat. If you don't mind just sharing which county you're in, as well as your business name. If you've already thought of one, we would love to cheer you on and look you up if you're already online. And also just your business idea, meaning like what product or service are you planning to offer? And if there's any specifics that we can help you with, depending on the industry that you're in, Ashley and I can help you because there might be resources or permits or specifics that might be needed specifically for your industry. So I'll give you all a second to do that, because I would just love to know a little bit about who's here before we dive in. I'm sure we have a mix of people with different products and services.
We had one other participant just join. I think it's Barbara. Welcome, Barbara.
Oh, perfect. Okay, Jen is in Ventura County in Ojai and wants to start a wedding planning event. Okay, name still TBD. Very exciting. It's nice that the events are back again. I know that there was a lot of like event planners during the pandemic that had a really hard time, but people are excited to be back again. So that's awesome. Michelle owns Alignment Advising, which is a business and professional coaching organization, and also is an instructor. That's right. What's up, Michelle? We're glad that you're here. Hi, Griselda, welcome. And if anybody wants to share more about their business, product, or service, you can do so as we go along, and maybe Ashley can jump in and let me know. Sophie is from Ventura County and it wants to start an acupuncture and herbal business. Ooh, I like that title. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Today, we are here to cover the steps to start your business. So I like to think of this as all the foundational information that you need, regardless of which industry you're in or, which county you're in. You're going to need some core things in place in order to officially launch your business. So this is really intended for people who are starting from scratch. Some of you might have some of the things already set up, but we want to make sure that you get all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed so that you can move forward with your business and feel confident about that. So today, what I'm going to be covering is a bit about business entities. Like, what is an actual business? What are your options when you're choosing a business? How can you formalize your business? And then from there, we're going to talk about the very basic paperwork that all businesses need. And as I just said a little bit ago, there might be things that, depending on your industry, you might need to get a few extra things. For example, I am in the financial services industry outside of working at Weave. And so people who sell insurance need certain certifications, or if you're giving investment advice, you might need certain certifications for that. Or if you're selling food, or if you're doing a childcare business, there might be additional things. And that's why we'll make sure to invite you to meet with our advisors after this so that you can get that more tailored one-on-one. But my goal is to help you understand the basics that pretty much everybody will need. And I'm just seeing that Barbara's in Santa Barbara. That's so perfect, you guys. My mom's name is also Barbara, but she doesn't live in Santa Barbara. That's a bummer. I should tell her to move there. Okay, and so you're going to be doing a custom clothing design and sewing business. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Awesome. Okay, what a cool mix of businesses we have here. So yeah, so we're going to be going over business entities and then the required paperwork that everybody needs. And then at the end, we'll make sure to have time for questions. So you can drop things in the chat, or we can even have you unmute if you prefer to ask that way, because I want to help you as much as I can. And then at the end, Ashley will go over additional resources, because we don't want this to be just like a one-off. We want this to be the beginning and then bring you into Weave and help you as much as possible with your business. So a quick note before we dive in is to remind you that Weave is here to help you start a legit business. And I say this with so much love because I've been an advisor for several years, but simply having a Venmo account and an Instagram is not necessarily enough to be considered a proper business. And I lived this I've gone through this with several clients. Some people will say like, oh, I have a Venmo account and an Instagram, so I'm like up and running, right? Those are good tools for marketing and for making sure that you're getting paid, but that doesn't mean that you have like constituted an actual business on paper. So you actually need to go through some formalities to create a proper business on paper so that you can apply for things like business grants, business loans. Some of you might want to sell your products or services at a farmer's market or at a retail location. All of these things require you to be able to show that you're not just, doing this as a side hustle, or just like, even if it is a part-time, you need to be able to show, that you have gone through the proper steps. And so all the information I'm sharing with you today is directly from the Small Business Administration, which is the part of the federal government that oversees, regulates, and supports small businesses and actually funds programs like Weave and other programs across the United States to help folks just like you get started properly. So when I get passionate about these things, it's not me making this information up. I know that I'm a nerd about it, so I am passionate, but this is like what you actually need. You know what I mean? The like 101 of starting a business. So the very, very, very first few steps are going to be to choose the product or service that you would like to offer, which it sounds like everybody who chimed in the chat already knows, more or less what you're wanting to offer. And of course, we can continue to help you polish your products and services, but that's kind of always going to be the beginning, right? From there, then you're going to need to know your business entity type. And that's what we're going to talk about right after this. And then once you know what your entity type is, then you're going to start by filing your business name. And starting with that very first step, you're going to have to mark on each type of paperwork that you fill out what your business name is going to be, what you want it to be, which we'll talk about how you claim your name. But then also you have to mark what type of business entity you're going to be. For example, are you going to be a sole proprietorship, or are you going to be an LLC or a partnership? There's different options. So you need to kind of know those three things ahead of time. And then start with your business name, and from there, then continue to file additional appropriate paperwork. So let's dive into business entities. When talking about business entities, if you look online, there's tons of information, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. So I just want to remind everybody that upfront, there's three main things to take into account when you are choosing which business entity is best for you. And so one of them is taxes. How do taxes work when you're a business owner? Another one is legal liability. What happens if things go sideways, and they go so sideways that you actually get taken to court? You want to know, what's going to happen. And it's not probable, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice necessarily, but it is part of being responsible before starting a business, is to know what would happen and how can you protect yourself. And then the third thing is, how many business owners are there? I'm not sure if any of you are planning to work, own a business with another person, but if so, that affects your options. And if you're going to be doing it on your own, that also affects your options too, because that's one of the factors that you need to know before fully launching. Okay, so we're going to touch on these three things first before talking about the actual business entities and what are they, because I want you to have a bit of context before we talk about that. So up top, we live in the United States, okay? Taxes are a thing, right? So we need to know that what's going to happen with taxes, okay? And so you are actually responsible for the taxes earned on your business income. And this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily think of when they're starting a business. And a job that I had for 11 tax seasons before I became a business advisor was through a program through the IRS, where we helped people file their taxes for free. And I saw so many people with small businesses that never thought they were going to owe taxes, and then they got blindsided owing, and they were so overwhelmed. So I just want you to know, people are used to getting a W-2 and just putting that on their 1040, and that's it. And they're used to there being a payroll person or an HR person who's setting some taxes aside. And that's not really how it works. When you start your own business, you're your own marketing person, you're your own HR, you're your own payroll, you're your own boss, you're kind of everything. And you can, of course, get people to help you with that. And that's why I'm just mentioning it here. But I want you to know that you'll start to hear about the fact that you will owe taxes, and you can write things off, and we can definitely help you with that too. But eventually you're going to be filing these two core tax forms at the federal level, okay? So you're gonna keep filing your Form 1040, and I put there the basic information that goes on there. You'll put your name, your date of birth, your address, your social security number. And if you can own a small business and still work for another job. For example, I'm working with Weave right now. At the end of the year, I'll get a W-2. And then I also have my own small business as a financial coach. So it doesn't mean that you can only, work for somewhere else or have your business. You can do both, but everything that's on the 1040 is basically establishing you as a taxpayer with the IRS and just telling them who you are, where you live, if you have dependents, and if you have a regular job, that information will still go on the 1040. I imagine everybody here by now has filed that at least once, or so you've had a tax preparer who's helped you with that. So that part is still going to be the same. Okay, you'll always keep doing that. And then depending on someone's financial situation in any given year, the IRS has additional forms that you will add to the 1040. So it's not either or, it's going to be both. You'll add an extra form that's called the Schedule C. And on there, that's where you put your business information. So you'll put your business name, your EIN number, which we'll talk about later, but it's basically like a social security number for your business. You'll put your business revenue, and then that's where you can write off your expenses. Okay, so you'll send both of these into the IRS. And I just want you to start preparing that. The goal is, of course, to write off all of your business expenses, but also to prepare that you will owe some level of taxes. And we actually want that because that means that you had more sales than expenses. We don't want to have more expenses than sales because that means it's negative. That means we're basically volunteering all year. And I know that that's not why you are all here. Okay, and this can go into the weeds. But I just wanted to mention up top that when you are starting a business, you are responsible for the taxes, okay? Next thing that you're responsible is legal liability, or you need to know, sorry, you're not inherently, but you need to know what happens if your business is found responsible for something that goes wrong. So you'll need to know, are you going to have personal liability or business liability? And what we're really talking about here is if you get sued and brought to court and they find that you did indeed do something wrong, will you need to make amends financially with your own assets, or will the money be coming from the business, okay? In either case, we recommend having business insurance so that you're protected, because a lot of people think of just their own personal savings or their own assets, and they're like, oh, it's not a problem for the business. But we also need to protect the business, because if we're going to be using the business to pay ourselves, both need to be protected. And so that's why, regardless of which option, and we'll talk about this when we talk about the entities in more detail, but having insurance can be a really smart move so that you're protected no matter if you have personal liability or the business has liability, so that you're protected in either case. Okay. And then the last factor to take into consideration here is how many people are going to control the financial or operational aspects of the business. If there's just you and you're on your own, your options are going to be either a sole proprietorship or a limited liability company, which is more often referred to as an LLC. If there's two or more people that are going to be owning and operating the business together, then your options, you can't do a sole proprietorship inherently because that's only for one person. So you could choose between a partnership or again, an LLC. There's also a few other options out there like LLPs and things like that. But in my experience being a business advisor, most people are going to be choosing through the ones that are listed here. Okay. And again, this would be a great opportunity to meet with us as advisors so we can continue to guide you and get you connected to resources to make the best choice for you. But again, if you're one person, you're basically going to be choosing in most cases between a sole prop or an LLC. Two people would be between a partnership and an LLC. And now we'll dive into what does that actually mean. Okay, so for a sole proprietorship, which is often called a sole prop, I think I already said that. It's just such a long name, so I just call it sole prop. Sole proprietorships are owned by one person. They're the easiest and most affordable to set up because there's only a small handful of forms and costs to establish it for the basics. In your industry, you might need a few extra things, but it is definitely the simplest option. It is important to know that the business owner is personally liable if the business gets sued. And you're also responsible for the taxes and you would file a Schedule C. In the financial world, that type of taxation is called pass-through taxation, which is a nerdy way to basically say the money does come into the business, but then because your Schedule C is attached to your 1040, it's like it flows through and the tax liability is on you, okay? So that's the basics of a sole proprietorship. We'll go through the paperwork that you need in order to file it, but that's the basics. It's a small business owned by one person. There's a few forms and costs to establish it. You have the personal liability if something were to go wrong, and you are also responsible solely for the taxation. Okay. And some training that I attended through the Small Business Administration somewhere in the pandemic, so it's foggy when it was, but I believe that they said that about 70 or 80%, I think, of all businesses in the United States either start as a sole proprietorship or remain a sole proprietorship throughout the entire life of the business. Because it's important to know you could start as one entity and change later if you want to for certain reasons. So you're not like stuck in this forever, but this is nationwide the most popular option simply because it's the easiest, most affordable. There's lots of benefits to being able to just get your paperwork and then start moving forward. Another option is what's called a partnership. There's a few different types of partnerships, but a general partnership requires there to be two or more owners. So you can't do this if it's just one person, but it's basically as if two sole proprietorships came together in the sense that if, let's say, me and Ashley wanted to start a business together, we would split both the tax liability as well as the legal liability. Okay, so we would each file a 1040 and a Schedule C and share the taxation responsibility. And if something went wrong and we had to make amends financially, we would both pay out. It wouldn't just be on me, it wouldn't just be on her. Okay, so that's another option depending on how many owners you might have. And then a limited liability company or an LLC is also very popular. This is flexible, so there can be one or more owners, okay? This does require more paperwork, and therefore it's recommended to work with an attorney to make sure that you file everything properly. However, the big benefit is that it protects your personal assets if the business is found liable and gets sued. So it kind of creates this like fictional barrier, or I don't mean fictional, but like legal on paper barrier between you and the business. So even if it's just you, it's like when you're working on the business, you're like the owner, but then if you get sued, it's like, oh, that's kind of a part. My personal assets are safe over here. Just look at the business. Okay. And in each state, there is an annual fee to uphold an LLC status, and that fee varies by the state. And in California, it's $800. And that is regardless of how much you had in earnings that year. So you would have to pay that in order to remain as an LLC each year. And so attorney fees vary. I've heard around like $1,500 to $2,000. It probably depends on who you work with. But that you can see that there's kind of a difference price-wise, because the basic permits for a sole proprietorship, if you don't require any additional, might be around like 200 or so. Whereas an LLC is going to be more expensive out the gate. So I'm not telling you what's best to do. There's different risk for each business. So we would want to help you make the right decision. But in general, a lot of people will start as a sole proprietorship and then consider changing to an LLC. But some people, if they're ready to go and they have the money saved and they know it's a priority for them, they might switch to an LLC. But everybody's case is different. So this is yet another example where we would invite you to meet with us so we can talk through these things with you. And in terms of taxes, LLCs can be taxed in a few different ways, but most commonly they're taxed the same with that Schedule C, and then it's considered pass-through. Okay.
Callie, there was a question that came in through the chat from Barbara about when do you pay the $800 for your LLC each year?
I believe it's when you file, and then again, like annually after that.
I think so. I had an LLC. I can speak from personal experience here.
Yeah.
So that it was the anniversary of when you start your LLC is when it's due each year. And speaking from personal experience as well, I dissolved my LLC and changed over to a sole prop because of that $800 fee. It was pretty prohibitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when people are starting out, that can be a big, what do I want to say? Big price to swallow, I would say. So, I've had clients that have gone from sole proprietorships to LLC, and then perfect example, just like Ashley said, recently I worked with a client who had an LLC, and then for reasons that made perfect sense for her case, she switched back to a sole prop. So you're not married to anyone, but you want to be mindful about what you do from the beginning, because you don't want to have to waste money on things unnecessarily. So these three options that I've covered so far are all small businesses. And I just put a corporation on here by comparison. There are several corporation options. But C corporations are the most popular type of corporation in the United States, and they inherently have lots of owners because on paper, they're actually owned by their investors. And so the big thing with C corporations, or corporation also often gets shortened to Corp. So a C Corp or an S Corp or a B Corp, things like that. A C Corp can offer stock on the stock market. So if you've ever bought stock, or if you have investments, they're probably, and you've actually lent your money most likely to a C corporation. And so we're talking big businesses like Target, Nestle, Amazon, BP. I mean, the list goes on and on, but those are all going to be C Corps, and their taxation is like mega complicated compared to just your regular Schedule C. It's called double taxation because the corporation files its own tax return, but then if you earn earnings as an investor, you also have to pay taxes, called double tax, but don't feel too bad for them. There's lots of loopholes, but that's what it's technically called, pass-through versus double taxation, okay? And I'm seeing some more comments. California is a litigious state. So an LLC is wise, yes. And that's why, again, even if you have an LLC, I would still recommend that people explore getting business insurance. And oftentimes business insurance can even be required. Like if you're gonna be working, I've had, I think, wedding planners, for example, I think I had a client where at certain venues, they were required to have that before they would like go set up certain events. That was in San Diego County. And certain places might require you to have insurance. So we want to make sure that you're protected so that your personal bank accounts don't get depleted if you were to get sued, or, an LLC. An LLC is a big protection, but that doesn't mean that you can't be found liable. So I'll just keep saying that over and over. Okay. Anyway, so these are the business entities. Okay, everybody. So to break it down, if you are one person, most of the cases you're going to choose between a sole proprietorship and LLC. And I'm not an attorney, not telling you what to do, but most people, just because of the money aspect, realistically speaking, will file for a sole proprietorship. But again, all certain circumstances are different and have different things that make sense for each of you. So just wanting you to know kind of what's out there. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay, I will keep going. You all can just give us a shout in the chat. And we'll move on to required paperwork, one of my favorite topics. And I'm not even kidding. I'm such a nerd. Okay. I just like you all to be like legit, you know what I mean? To be like mega boss babes, like on the up and up, making sure that you go to bed at night peacefully because you have everything in order. So that's what I want to help you with here. Okay. So the required paperwork, this is the overview. This is what we're going to be talking about, is a fictitious business name, business tax certificate, EIN number, bank account, insurance, seller's permit, and other permits, okay? But take a deep breath. It's all good. And we're going to follow up with a whole checklist. We have a guide for both counties that we'll send you, both Ventura and Santa Barbara County, where it has all this information in there too. And we'll just go through this one by one, okay? So the first one is a fictitious business name, which is often referred to as an FBN. And if you're doing research about small businesses online too, you'll probably see another term pop up that's called a DBA, doing business as. That's the same thing as a fictitious business name. I don't know why in California we're like fancy. We're like, ooh, FBN. So this is basically the public name of your business. So if you are planning to conduct business with any other name than your last name, or if there's more than one owner, you have to file a fictitious business name. And then there's a second step of publishing it in a newspaper. And then sole proprietorships are required to have an FBN if you're doing business with a name that doesn't contain the last name of the owner. So we'll go through some examples of that because this language is from the county. So I want to make it a little bit easier. So it's the public name of your business, which allows you to market your business with another name than your personal legal name. It also protects your business name so that no one else can use it in your county, okay? It lasts for 5 years at a time. And depending on which county you're in, you're gonna file it directly with that county, and we'll send you, I believe, Ashley can confirm this. Our goal is to send you the startup guides that we have that contain all the details. And so you'll know exactly where you need to file. But basically the county has a database of like all the businesses that exist in those counties, and they're the ultimate authority. So they will see if your name is available. And if so, then they can approve your name. And then after they give you the actual certificate saying that you've paid for it, there's this additional step where you need to publish it in a local newspaper, which will guide you through that. And that's like to officially make it public that your business is starting. And then from there, you're good to go. And you'll just need to renew it every 5 years. I've had some clients who will say like, oh, I Googled, you know, this name or that name to see if it's available. And that's a good step. You know what I mean? Because as the business owners, we do care about the marketability of our business. We want to know if like, you know, people are already using that name, but I just want to reiterate that the ultimate authority on this is not Weave, it's not Google, it's the county. Okay. So there might be someone who like 4.5 years ago, you know, just a smidge ago, was using that business name, but then they took down their website or things like that. And so you think it's free, but the county says that it still belongs to someone else. You know what I mean? I haven't had a client in that case, but I'm just saying it could happen. So you'll basically choose your business name. They'll double check that it's free, available. And if so, then you'll pay for it with the county, and then it lasts for 5 years, and you'll just keep it updated unless you wanted to rebrand, because you can also change your name if you want to, but that's the first step, okay? So it's required for most businesses, and specifically when the business name does not include the last name of the owner or owners. It's required if the business name suggests the existence of additional owners, or if the nature of the business is not clear by the name of the business. So this is like also directly from the county, and I'm going to go through some examples here that will hopefully make it clearer. But the take home is in like 98%, or probably 99 if I actually ran the numbers of all the clients I've worked with, pretty much all need a fictitious business name, because most people don't want to name their business, you know, just their name. They want to name it something more creative or descriptive that's more about the industry that they're in. Because as Ashley said, I'm a Shakira fan. Not all of us have like the brand recognition of like just being able to say, oh, I'm Shakira, I'm Adele, I'm Lady Gaga, I'm Beyonce. And everybody's like, oh yeah, I know what you do. You know what I mean? Most of us need to like garner that by having a name that represents what we're doing. And so most businesses, for the reasons that are listed here, will be required to do a fictitious business name. So let me go through the examples. And I think there's a comment in the chat I'll look at here. So, so these are some examples. So Jane Doe and Friends Plumbing does require a fictitious business name because the name implies additional owners. The and friends, if it was just Jane Doe Plumbing, as you can see at the bottom, that wouldn't require a fictitious business name. But and friends is like, oh, wait, there's other people involved in the business. And if they never file a fictitious business name, the county wouldn't have a clear record of who owns this business. You know what I mean? So they want to have that on file so that they know who owns the business. Jane Doe Industries does also require a fictitious business name because it doesn't identify the nature of the business. So even though her last name is in that, that's great. Industries is too vague. It's like, is she doing interior design? Is she cutting people's hair? Is she, an attorney? You know what I mean? Is she selling sheetrock? We don't know what Jane Doe is up to because industries is too vague. So they want any business name where it's not very clear what the person is doing to file a fictitious business name so you can tell the county what industry you're in, who owns it, and things like that. Okay. There's rare exceptions where people choose names like Jane Doe Plumbing, which I have experienced it. So I'm not saying it's not out there, but it's rare that people would do something like that. But Jane Doe Plumbing, for example, would not require a fictitious business name. Okay. And is the fee different per county? I believe it does vary a bit. Ashley might be able to speak to if you know how much it is precisely.
I would have to look at our guides. I don't want to misquote it, but I believe it does vary by county.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And again, you would only pay this every 5 years and they'll alert you when it's time to update it. So that is a bit about fictitious business names. So the first step again is to know what you want to offer, which business entity type you're going to do, and then you're going to go file your name. And right on the fictitious business name statement, you're going to have to write, are you filing as a sole prop or an LLC, things like that. So this is going to be basically the first paperwork step that you're going to be taking. Okay. And I'm presenting these in the order that I would suggest that you follow through on them because we want to make sure that your name is available and protected, because after that, you're going to have to write your business name on every other form that you fill out. If we sell in other counties, like flea markets, do you need a license there too? Ashley, do you happen to know that? I believe so.
Yes. Yeah. And Michelle, you want to speak to that too? I see you raising your hand.
Yes. If you're going to do business with certain entities, especially the government, like a county or city government, they'll request that you fill out a permit and a business license. Yeah.
Perfect. Teamwork. Thank you for chiming in. So that's a fictitious business name. So the next step is to then move forward and apply for a business license. And this is filed with the city or county where your business is based and receiving payment. So that startup guide that we're going to send you will have more specifics on exactly where you should file within each county. But this essentially allows you to conduct business in a certain geographical area. And here the prices do vary depending on both your location as well as the type of industry that you're in. And unlike the fictitious business name, which is every 5 years, the business license is in fact annual. Okay. And this is, in my experience, they'll send you a notification. Like if I filed today, January 19th, sometime in December this year, like about a month before it's due, then they start to notify you that it's time for you to renew that. And you'll get asked for this quite often. Like if you're going to apply for a business loan or go to a farmer's market or different things, you're going to have to start showing your paperwork to show that you're legit. And oftentimes it's the fictitious business name you'll get asked for too, but often a business license. If you want to apply for a business grant or loan, it depends. So this is starting to create a paper trail now for your business. Okay. And here's an example that I found that was an example of what it looks like for Santa Barbara. But they're each going to look a little bit different. But here you can see the date that it was issued, and then it expires about a year later. You can see on the right. So then after you have those, then you can go ahead and apply for an EIN number, which stands for an employer identification number, which is essentially a social security number, if you want to think of it that way, for your business. And it facilitates different financial transactions. So when you go open up a business bank account, when you file your taxes, you're going to put that on your Schedule C. When you apply for business loans and grants, you're going to put that on your application. And it also protects your personal information because on invoices or other things, you don't need to put always your social security number. You can just put the EIN. So it provides you some personal security. And to apply for this, it's simply at irs.gov for $0. as advisors, we can help you with this. I've probably helped, I would say a few hundred clients apply for their EINs at this point. But my main tip is please do not Google and do not pay, okay? Don't type into Google EIN numbers, because there's like these sketchy websites where people say that they're going to help you apply for it. And I've had a small handful, I'm not trying to be like dramatic about it, okay? But I've had a few clients who just Googled EINs instead of just typing irs.gov. And they ended up on websites where small businesses or bots or whoever these people are say they're going to help you apply for EINs. And sometimes they do it right, but they charge you anyway. And sometimes they do it wrong. And I had a client who had just like faxed tons of documents to the IRS, and it became a big headache for her because they like messed up her application and all this stuff. And so that's why we're here to help you. And so you can do it. It is a relatively easy form at irs.gov, but if you want help, please, please, please let us help you, because we're here to support you as much as possible. And then it's $0. And as my dad used to say, it's not free. It's no additional charge, because we pay federal taxes for the IRS to exist. So you shouldn't, if you end up on any website that's trying to charge you for an EIN, please just close your browser, shut down your computer, go for a walk, take a deep breath, and then come back and try again, okay? I don't want you to fall into the trap that my other clients did of paying $300 for something that you've already literally paid for them to do for you, okay? So no Googling, no paying, okay? And then once you have it, they'll basically allow you to download, once you fill out that form at irs.gov, you basically fill out, or you will be given a PDF and you just download it and it'll have your EIN on there. And then you want to save that like pronto, because, and when I save, I mean like put it in your Google Drive or another place in your what's another one? Dropbox or whatever, somewhere where you save your documents, because I've had clients not do that. And then they're like, oh, what do I do? And then you have to call the IRS, wait on the phone. You know what I mean? It becomes kind of a mess. So you just want to save it, because they're not going to contact you again about it. Like that was your one and done. Okay. So you just want to make sure that it's in a safe place. Oh, and thank you so much for looking up the prices for the FBNs. Ashley, that's perfect. Okay, so your EIN is good to go. You don't need to update this unless you change your entity type, I believe, or if you updated your business name, for example. But this would be like for the life of your business. You're like ready to go. Okay. The next thing, once you have all these other steps done, then you're eligible to go apply for a business bank account. And now, according to the Small Business Administration, you just need one account. And so that's going to be, in all cases, a checking account, because you want to make sure that all your expenses and income, you're paying for your expenses from this account and having your income deposited into this account. So everybody's going to want that. But what was the very first topic I mentioned at the beginning? That you are going to probably owe taxes at some point. So that's why I recommend very strongly opening up a savings account. And as a rule of thumb, just a total guesstimate, I encourage clients to move over about 15–20% of their income for taxes, because you are going to owe at some point, and we want you to owe. I know nobody wants to like owe taxes, but we do actually, because alternative means that you're taking like a hit, you know, a loss for the whole year. You don't want to work for a whole year on your business. You might for a year or two at the beginning, but we don't want that to be the end story of your business, you know? So that's why I encourage clients to move over a small amount of what they earn into their savings account so that they're prepared for taxes. And everybody's situation is going to be different depending on your expenses, your income, you know, everything will change from year to year. So your accountant or our advisors, we can try to help you as much as possible, or your tax preparer, your CPA can give you more detailed advice. But having at least a buffer set aside is a good start, because you might owe less than that amount for the year. And that's great, because then you can pay what you owed and then reroute that rest of the money to something else in your business. But if you owe more than that, at least you had a cushion, you know what I mean? And I can't tell you how many taxpayers in that program I was a part of for 11 years who never thought to set anything aside for their business, and tax season frigging blindsided them, okay? I could tell you so many stories about that, but we really want there to be a separation of church and state as well, where you have your personal bank account, where you go to Vons, you go to Target, you hang out with your kids, you pay for happy hour with your friends, all you pay for your rent, you know, whatever. That's going to be in this account, okay? But then when you have your business bank account, everything that you need to pay for, your website URL, or, you know, updating your permits, or, you know, taking professional photos for your business, or anything that you have to pay for, you want that to come out of your checking account, your business checking account. And then you also want to have all clients pay you and have that money routed to your business bank account, because that's going to make your bookkeeping so much easier. At the beginning, when you start a business, there's always going to be a few expenses, like these initial permits that I'm encouraging you to get. You're going to have to pay for that out of your personal account, and you can still deduct those. As soon as you have your business bank account opened, we really want you to have that separation, because it's going to make it a lot easier for your bookkeeping, filing taxes, just double checking your transactions, to have it all over here and not mingled together. And so I don't necessarily have like one recommendation as to where to look. So I encourage people to check with where they're already banked, and ask your current bank or credit union if they have small business accounts, and just ask if they have a minimum balance requirement or a monthly fee. And most banks will require you to make a small deposit to fund the account, to kick it off, usually like about $100 is what I've seen. It might vary depending on the financial institution, but smaller banks and credit unions that are more geared towards a community will require a smaller deposit than like big banks. So those are the four things: the fictitious business name, business license or business tax certificate, EIN, and bank account that you're going to need for sure. Okay. And that's like non-negotiable, as my friend John always says, non-negotiable. Okay. So beyond that, we would recommend that you get business insurance, because as we talked about, no matter the business entity type you're going to choose, you will want to protect, you know, your personal assets or your business assets. And in the financial world, there's lots of different types of insurance. In the small business world, the two main types are what's called errors and omissions, or E&O, or general liability. And we're going to talk about these a little bit. But in terms of where to check, you can check with your current insurance provider and just see, for example, if where you have your car insurance or your homeowners or renters insurance, see if they already offer small business insurance, or if you know people who are doing similar businesses to you, or, you know, are in the same industry, you can ask if they have recommendations too. Okay. But let's talk about the difference. So general liability is mostly physical in nature. So if someone had an injury, like they slipped and fell or got hurt, you know, when they were there with you, if your property was damaged, or if you had a theft, you know, what if someone came in and took all of your business property, things like that, that's more general liability. Whereas professional E&O, which again is errors and omissions, that's more financial in nature. And that's like if you do like a sketchy job at your job, or if you didn't even do your job. And so for my financial planning certificate classes, I took an insurance planning class. And so, for example, I'm not an insurance guru, but like an example, like I'm a financial coach, right? If someone hired me to work and help them create a budget, and we agreed we're going to work together for a year, they paid me, we signed a contract, but then I moved to Fiji and never came back. You know what I mean? They'd be like, what the heck? I already paid her. We had this contract in place. That's crazy. So they could sue me because I failed at my performance. You know what I mean? Or they could also sue me if I gave really bad advice. Let's say I told all of my clients to max out their credit cards, not care about their credit score, never save for retirement, never make a budget, you know, just live on a hope and a prayer. That's obviously horrible financial advice I would never give. I'm not giving it right now, even hypothetically. But if I did, that would be really bad, right? So people could be like, what the heck? Like my financial situation has only gotten worse since I hired Cally, and then they could sue me and they would probably win because that's horrible advice, you know? So depending on your situation, the insurance provider will be able to guide you towards like what type of plan would be best for you to protect you, because you might need both, just one of the other. But I'll give some examples too. So these are the most common type of claims that people file in the United States for general liability. Okay. 20% is for burglary and theft. People might come to your business and take something. There might be damage from water and freezing. I don't know how much that happens in Southern California because I'm from Minnesota. I bet that freezing happens a lot up there. But there could also be damage from wind and hail, from fire, and then from someone slipping and falling. So we want you to be protected and not have, you know, one of these cases completely take down your business. We want it to be more like a hiccup rather than a whole downfall. And so that's why having insurance, regardless of your entity type, can be really helpful so that you're protected. And then people often have questions about how much it can cost. And so I just wanted to, I found this when I was preparing for our presentation. And so you can see roughly how much the median cost is per year, depending on the industry that you're in. So I think this is much more affordable than I'm assuming most of my clients might think, because when we hear insurance, we're like, oh my gosh, business, it's going to be expensive. It's actually not too bad depending on certain industries. And so it just is there for your peace of mind, you know what I mean? And to kick in if something really does happen. So these are just some examples that I had found online, but the exact quote that you'll be given will be given by an insurance provider. So, but yeah, this divided by a monthly basis, I think is really worth it if you just pay on monthly premiums to know that you're protected, okay? So then the next piece of paperwork that you might need, and this is only for businesses that sell products, this is called a seller's permit, and it allows you to sell items either at the wholesale or retail level. And it's for businesses that sell what the government calls tangible property, which is basically goods, not services. So I personally don't have experience with this because as a financial advisor or financial coach, in my business, I'm offering my advice. I don't have physical objects that I'm selling, but if you're planning to sell physical objects, goods, basically, then you would need this. And this is issued online or by phone. And this is through the state, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. And again, this is, as my dad would say, no additional charge, because that is one of the services that the government provides through the taxes that we all pay. So in the guide that we'll be sending you, there's also the direct contact information for the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. And it kind of has some information there about how to go through this. Next is a resource that I want you all to know about, which is called CalGold. And this is a website called calgold.ca.gov. And as you can see, this is through the governor's office. And so this is a tool that will help you find additional permits that you might need, depending on the industry that you're in. There might be additional things that you need. I would give this website like a B, I would say, as like a millennial who's lived online ever since she first had access to American Online. I find it kind of clunky, but it's a good starting point. Okay, so I put a screenshot here. You can see on the bottom right, you select the city. So you type where you're going to be. And then the reason I say it's clunky is because you have to enter your business type. And they have like a set list of like industries that are in there. But a lot of my clients are like doing super creative things that aren't like necessarily on that list. So you can see it also says contact us. So that's why we're here to help you, or you can also contact them and they'll be able to see if there's like additional permits that you might need. But I just wanted you to know that this exists above and beyond the basics that everybody will need. Depending on your industry, you might need additional things that are specific to what you're doing. And this is a good place to kind of see the lay of the land of what you might need. Okay. So to recap, because I know that was a lot of information, you'll be needing a fictitious business name in most cases, definitely a business tax certificate or a business license, it's called, an EIN number, which again is $0 at irs.gov, bank account, at least one. And then we recommend getting business insurance. And then a seller's permit is required only if you're selling goods. And then other permits would be required as needed for your industry. Okay, and since I know that that's a lot, this is the perfect time to take some questions and then also remind you that we are here to help you through this whole thing. And Ashley is going to share some resources with you. But yeah, that's what I had prepared for you. So I'll just stop sharing my screen, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you, Cally. That was awesome. What questions do you all have? I see Barbara, maybe you're talking and take yourself off mute.
Hi, Barbara. Barbara in Santa Barbara. If you want to unmute yourself, because we can't hear you yet.
There you go.
This is sort of just not for me personally, but just generally. So if you have an eBay or Etsy or similar kind of account, you should have all those things, really. I think there's some kind of like maximum annual limit of business you can do on those websites without having proper business entity. Yeah.
Business, my understanding is that online businesses are required to have the same paperwork to be operated. Right. There might be a threshold like that. I don't have direct experience with e-commerce, but I'd be happy to connect with the Weave team and see if somebody is more versed in that to know.
Michelle?
I do.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's $600. You can make up to $600 without having a license for those sites.
That's helpful. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
That's a good trivia fact. Now,
Yeah. Is that in California or is that just nationwide anywhere?
That's a good question, but I think it's federal.
Federal.
I'm pretty sure. I would double check that.
What other questions do you all have?
So it's similar to what someone asked. If my service is like not a good, but a service, and I want to treat people outside of Ventura County, like if I have patients, would I need a license from the different cities that I'm in, or no?
will you remind me what service you're going to be offering again?
So acupuncture.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
you're going to be helping them. They're going to be coming to you, or you're going to be going to them?
Hypothetically, if I go to them outside of the city, do I need an extra license?
Ashley, you can chime in.
Yeah, and I see Barbara, you wanting to share?
Well, I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm not using
Okay.
my license right now, but I did for a long time. And yeah, I was told that you have to have a license. If I'm going to go to Ventura or Los Olivos and do out-call work, that I would
Yes.
have a license
In the
those
city where
places.
you're
And
working.
you can slide in there and try without, of course, because your client, if they love you, is not going to report you. But if they are litigious and you do something that they think is causing them problems, then it can start a snowball of issues.
That's right. Yeah, thank you, Barbara. So you should have a license for anywhere you're treating a client. If you go to Santa Barbara, then you should have technically a license in Santa Barbara. Griselda, I saw you raise your hand earlier. Did you have a question?
Yes. Are there any like age requirements for any of the
Yeah,
permanent
interesting. I
services?
saw that you asked, you're here for your daughter who's starting a soap business and she's 11.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Oh, that's so
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, it's very cool. One of our other instructors and advisors is supporting her daughter, who's 12, Juliana, and her daughter has a strawberry jam business. And I believe that, that it should be for, for the business itself, not for the individual, is what I'm thinking. But we probably would want to look into that.
Okay.
I know when I was young, not old like I am now, but if you were still in high school or younger, there was an age limit where you actually had to have something. I don't even remember what that something was, but you had to have something to be able to be allowed to work. So
Yeah,
yes, that's something you could ask the school board, or your local school people would know that.
We have a lot of like youth makers markets around. And so we can look into that question to be sure of what the appropriate licenses are for youth.
Okay.
A worker's permit, Michelle?
I think so.
Okay, we can look into that. Thank you for that question.
And from a tax perspective, based on my experience, my understanding would be unless even you would still be able to claim her as a dependent, but she should still be able to write off her expenses. I'd be sure on the Schedule C. So unless there's certain rules in order to claim someone as a dependent, and one of them is you need to provide at least 51% of their income in order to live. So unless her business sold so much that it became more than like the rent and food and everything that you're providing her at 11 years old, you would still be able to claim her as a dependent.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm just going to share briefly about the classes that we have coming up in case you're interested in joining one of our WEVE classes to pursue your idea further. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And of course, we can take more questions after I do this brief overview. Can you all still see the screen? Okay, great. So here at Weave, we have three core services that we offer to our clients. We have funding available. So for those of you who are interested in growing your business and you need capital to do so, we have low interest rate loans, some grant programs as well. And the thing that sets Weave apart is that we're a CDFI. It's a community development financial institution, meaning that we can provide loans at lower interest rates and to people who wouldn't qualify for a traditional loan from a bank. So that's, a really nice thing that we have available here at Weave. We have our classes that I head up here. I'm in charge of the training programs, and I'm going to talk a bit more about those in a moment. And then we have consulting, and that's for people who really want that one-on-one support. Cally and Michelle here on the call today are two of our wonderful consultants. So we do have that available for people who, a lot of times we have people who come in for a class and then they transfer over to our coaching, our consulting program, because they want that one-on-one support. So those are really the three core services that we have here at Weave. And then just giving a plug for the classes that we have starting next month in February. We have our SET program, which stands for the Smart Entrepreneurial Training. That program has been around since Weave's inception for over 30 years, if you can believe it. So it's definitely tried and true, amazing, very comprehensive program. And at the end of this 14-week program, you walk away with a loan-ready business plan and a business plan that you can refer back to, and it's really going to be a valuable tool for you. It's a comprehensive class. It's a big investment in time, and it's really, just something that, if you're serious about putting your business into action, the SET program is for you. We also have a business finance class called Know Your Numbers, and that's an 8-week program online, as well as some optional Saturday morning workshops that you could get some one-on-one support if you really want to dig into your accounting for your business. And both of those classes, the SET program and the Know Your Numbers program, are enrolling now. You can find the interest form on our website, on the Weave website, and the classes will start the week of February 8th. And then later this spring, we have 3 other classes. We have Live Plan, which is also a business planning class. It's condensed. It's a much shorter 4 weeks, with the 5th week being giving a pitch presentation for your business. But you'll also come away not with a full business plan, but with a business canvas, as we call it, just something that kind of sketches out your business idea. And it's for people who really want kind of an accelerated online program. Second to last, we have Explore, which is the class that Michelle leads for us here at Weave. And this is for people who are really not entirely sure yet if their business idea is a viable one, or if they're ready for entrepreneurship themselves. So they maybe want to kind of look into the time commitment, look into the business idea, and really kind of explore exactly as it says if they're ready for entrepreneurship. And then finally, we have Get Your Business Online. So that is going to be actually a new offering for us that we've this year. It's kind of the evolution of the digital marketing class that we've been running for a couple of years. It's really application based. So talking about, how do you set up your Instagram? How do you set up your Shopify? Really just getting into those technical tools for setting up your business online. So those are the classes that we have on offer at Weave. I'm not going to go too much into all of them unless you want me to, but I can give more information if you need without sharing my slides with any questions that you have. But the SET program, again, is and the Know Your Numbers class are the ones that we're enrolling for right now. And this is the cost, the regular fee of the SET program. We do have a sliding scale available for people, meaning that that's the regular fee, but we do have a reduced fee for people who need it. And then we have what we call a pay it forward fee for people who are able to pay more and may want to sponsor and support another person who may not be able to pay for the class. So any questions about any of our classes or Weave services in general that I can answer? No? Any questions about Cally's presentation, license, permits? We will send out a business startup guide for both Santa Barbara and Ventura County after this call.
It was a really good presentation. Thank you. I think we're just like digesting, we're digesting all the information. So it was really good. If there's no questions, they'll come up. And can we email you guys if something kind of like pops up? Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of
Who-
course.
Who do we,
I'll drop my email address in the chat, and you're more than
Thank you.
welcome to email me. And we're here for you. I think that's one of the main things that I want to also share is that Weave is here to be a supportive community. You know, starting a business can be kind of daunting. And, you know, that's, I think, the thing that the message that I'd love for you guys to take away is that, you know, we're a supportive community, and any questions, all questions are good questions, and whatever you might need or whatever questions you have, we're here for you.
Thanks for the positive feedback, Sophie. I hope that you're all able to move forward with these first few steps and get connected to with Weave even more.